Walk into any Greek taverna, anywhere in the world, and the menu reads like a national treasure map. Gyro, hummus, baklava, tzatziki, pita. You order, you eat, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you file it all away as ancient, timeless, unmistakably Greek. Here is the uncomfortable truth, and I want you to sit with it for a second before you get defensive. Almost none of it started in Greece. Not the gyro turning on that spit in the window. Not the hummus you are scooping with warm bread. Not the honey-soaked baklava on the counter by the till. These dishes crossed borders, changed names, got adopted, rebranded, and sold back to the world with a little blue and white flag on top. And once you know where they actually came from, you will never look at a Greek menu the same way again. I'm Andrew, and on this channel, we follow food backwards. Not forwards to the plate, but backwards to the field, the cookbook, the empire, the port town where somebody first wrote the recipe down. Today we are doing 10 foods you are absolutely convinced are Greek, and I'm going to show you how each one actually traces to the Middle East, to the kitchens of Cairo and Baghdad, to Ottoman palace cooks, to Yemeni traders and Bedouin bakers. Some of these are going to sting. One of them is basically a diplomatic incident on a plate. Stay to the end because the last one is a word that is not even Greek, it is Arabic, and once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Let us get into it. We start with the big one. Number 10, the gyro. That tower of meat turning on a vertical spit, sliced thin, wrapped in pita with tomato, onion, and a slick of white sauce. If there is one dish people point to and say that is peak Greek street food, it is this. And the method behind it, that stacked, self-basting vertical roast turning next to a wall of heat, was not invented in Athens. It was perfected in the Ottoman Empire, in what is now Turkey, in the 19th century. The Turkish version is called doner kebab, and doner literally means turning or rotating. There is a specific story here that historians actually take seriously. In the town of Bursa in the 1860s, a cook remembered as Iskander Efendi is credited with taking the kebab that used to roast horizontally and standing it upright, so the fat dripped down and basted the meat as it turned. That is the technology. That is the innovation. The Greek gyro, the Arab shawarma, the Mexican al pastor that Lebanese immigrants carried across the Atlantic, they are all children of that vertical spit. The word gyro itself, gyros, just means turn in Greek, which is a direct translation of doner. Think about that. The name is a translation of the Turkish name for the same machine. Greece did not invent the gyro. Greece translated it, wrapped it in a slightly different bread, and made it famous. And honestly, the Greek version is delicious. I am not taking that away from anyone. But when you call it a Greek invention, you are skipping about 400 miles east and a couple of centuries of history. Number 9. Hummus. Creamy, garlicky, drizzled with olive oil. The thing you cannot stop eating with warm pita. Ask 10 people where hummus is from, and half of them will say Greece, because it turns up on every Greek mezza platter. It is not Greek. It is not even close. The full name is hummus bi tahini, which is Arabic. Hummus is simply the Arabic word for chickpea. So when you say you love hummus, you are literally saying you love chickpea in Arabic. The dish as we know it, mashed chickpeas with tahini, lemon, and garlic, has its deepest roots in the Levant and the wider Arab world, in the kitchens of what is now Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. And the ingredients themselves are ancient Middle Eastern staples. The chickpea was one of the first crops ever domesticated by human beings, more than 10,000 years ago, in the Fertile Crescent, that arc of land running through modern Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Tahini, the sesame paste that makes hummus taste like hummus, shows up in Arabic cookbooks from the 13th century. There is a Cairo cookbook from that era that describes a cold chickpea and tahini dish with vinegar, herbs, and spices. That is medieval Egypt, writing hummus down 700 years ago. Greece adopted it, the way the whole Eastern Mediterranean adopted it, because it is brilliant food. But the name is Arabic, the chickpea is Fertile Crescent, and the tahini is straight out of the Arab kitchen. Hummus is a Middle Eastern dish that Greece serves. It is not a Greek dish that the Middle East copied. Number 8. Baklava. Those glistening diamonds of flaky pastry, layered with nuts, soaked in syrup or honey. The dessert trolley centerpiece at every Greek celebration. And I get why people assume it is Greek, because Greek bakeries make gorgeous baklava. But the baklava you know, that specific thing of paper-thin pastry stacked dozens of layers high, packed with pistachios or walnuts, and drenched in sweet syrup, was developed and perfected in the kitchens of the Ottoman Empire, at Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. The palace records are extraordinary. The Ottoman sultans employed whole battalions of pastry cooks, and there was a ceremony called the Baklava procession, the Baklava Alayi, where trays of baklava were paraded out to the Janissary soldiers during the holy month. This was a state event. Baklava was so important to the empire that it was used to keep the army happy. That is not a footnote. That is a dessert with a military parade. Now, people will argue about the deep origins, and there are threads that run back through Central Asian layered breads and Byzantine pastry, and I am not going to pretend the whole thing sprang fully formed from one kitchen. But the version we eat, the fine phyllo, the nut filling, the syrup, that is Ottoman craftsmanship, and the strongest documented history sits in Istanbul, not Athens. Greek baklava is a regional cousin of the Ottoman original. Delicious, absolutely. Uniquely, originally Greek? No. Number 7, tzatziki. Cool, creamy, garlicky yogurt with cucumber and a hit of dill, the sauce you spoon onto everything. Surely this one is Greek. The name even sounds Greek. Here's the twist. The word tzatziki comes from the Turkish word çaçık, and çaçık itself comes from Persian roots. It is a whole family of yogurt and cucumber dishes that stretches right across the former Ottoman world, from the Balkans through Turkey and into the Middle East and beyond. In Turkey, it is çocuk, often served thinner, almost like a cold soup. In the Levant, you get a cousin made with yogurt, cucumber, and mint. The core idea, strained yogurt with cucumber and garlic and a fresh herb, is a Middle Eastern and Ottoman staple, and it traveled into Greece the same way so much of this list did, through centuries of shared kitchens under the same empire. Strained yogurt, the thick style we now market as Greek yogurt, was eaten all across the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East, long before it had a marketing department. Tzatziki is the Greek name for a dish the whole region has been making forever. The recipe did not start in Greece. The pronunciation did. Number 6, pita. The soft, round, pillowy flatbread that holds the gyro, scoops the hummus, mops the plate. Pita feels so fundamental to Greek food that calling it Middle Eastern almost feels rude. But flatbread is one of the oldest cooked foods on Earth, and the oldest bread ever found by archaeologists was not in Greece. In the Black Desert of northeastern Jordan, researchers found the charred remains of flatbread that are around 14,000 years old. 14,000. That is thousands of years before agriculture, before the pyramids, before anything we would call ancient Greece. People in the Middle East were grinding wild grains and baking flat rounds of bread on hot stones, while the idea of Greece did not exist yet. Pocket bread, the pita with the hollow inside puffed up by steam, developed across the Levant and the wider Middle East as the everyday bread of the region. The name pita is shared across many languages, and the bread itself belongs to the whole Eastern Mediterranean. Greece bakes wonderful pita, but bread this old, this foundational, is humanity's, and its oldest chapter was written in the sands of Jordan, not the hills of Attica. Number 5, Dolmades. Those little parcels of vine leaves wrapped around rice and herbs, sometimes minced meat, served cold with lemon. The elegant starter, the picnic favorite, the thing your Greek friend's grandmother makes. And once again, the name gives the game away. Dolma comes from the Turkish verb dolmak, to be filled, and dolma just means stuffed thing. Stuffed vegetables and stuffed leaves are a signature of Ottoman and wider Middle Eastern cuisine, an entire category of cookery devoted to filling one thing with another. Stuffed vine leaves appear in Arabic cookbooks from the medieval period, including recipes from the courts of the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad, where cooks stuffed leaves with rice and meat and spices more than 1,000 years ago. From the palaces of Baghdad and later Istanbul, the technique spread out across the whole region. The Greek word dolmades is a direct borrowing of that Turkish word for stuffed. So the very thing you order as a Greek classic carries a Turkish name for an Arab and Ottoman technique. Greece makes a beautiful, lemony version. The concept, the name, and the oldest recipes are Middle Eastern. Number 4, and this one genuinely surprises people because it feels like the most Greek dish of all, moussaka. layers of aubergine, spiced minced meat, and that thick golden bechamel on top, baked until it is bronzed and bubbling. The Sunday dinner of Greece. Here is the thing that breaks people's brains. The aubergine, the star vegetable of moussaka, is not native to Greece or the Mediterranean at all. It originates in South and Southeast Asia and came west through the Middle East, carried and cultivated by Arab and Persian farmers and traders, who spread it across their world centuries before it reached Greek kitchens. The name moussaka itself comes from the Arabic moussaka, which means chilled or soaked, describing a baked aubergine and meat dish from the Arab world. So the base dish, spiced aubergine and meat baked together, is Arab. But here is the real kicker, and it is almost too good. That famous golden bechamel top, the thing everyone thinks makes moussaka moussaka, is not ancient, and it is not even originally in the dish. It was added in the 1920s and 30s by a Greek chef named Nikolaos Tsalementes, who trained in French cooking and wanted to make Greek food feel more refined and European. He took an old Arab and Ottoman aubergine bake and crowned it with a French sauce. So the modern Greek moussaka you love is an Arab dish, built on an Asian vegetable, finished with a French sauce by a Greek chef less than 100 years ago. Almost nothing about it is ancient, and its heart is Middle Eastern. If you only remember one item from this whole video, make it this one, because it perfectly captures what food history actually is. Everything is borrowed. Everything is a remix. Number 3, Greek coffee. That tiny cup of thick, strong, unfiltered coffee with the foam on top and the sludge at the bottom. Served with a glass of water, sipped slowly while the world goes by. It is a ritual. It is a whole social institution, and it is, without any exaggeration, the exact same drink that the rest of the region calls Turkish coffee. Same beans, same fine grind, same little long-handled pot, the one Turks call a chezve, same method of simmering the grounds right in the water, same foam, same sludge. For centuries, in Greece and everywhere else in the Ottoman world, it was simply called Turkish coffee, because that is what it was. The name Greek coffee was pushed hard after 1974, after the conflict over Cyprus soured relations between Greece and Turkey, and calling it Turkish suddenly felt uncomfortable to many Greeks. So the name changed. The drink did not. And the coffee itself goes back much further and much further south than either country. Coffee as a drink was born in Yemen, in the port city of Mocha, where Sufi monks brewed it to stay awake through night prayers, from beans that traced across the water to Ethiopia. From Yemen it spread up through Mecca, through Cairo, through Damascus, and into Istanbul, where the first great coffee houses opened in the 1500s. Every cup of Greek coffee is a Yemeni drink, refined in Arab cities, spread by the Ottomans, and renamed by history. The rebrand is barely 50 years old. The drink is ancient, and it is not Greek. Number 2, Loukoumades. Those golden little dough balls, deep fried until crisp, soaked in honey syrup, dusted with cinnamon, sometimes sesame or crushed nuts. Sold hot at Greek festivals, and often introduced with a proud claim that these were the very first desserts, handed to the winners of the ancient Olympic Games. It is a lovely story. But the little fried honey dough ball you are eating traces directly to a Middle Eastern sweet with a documented history. In a 13th century Baghdad cookbook, compiled by a writer known as al-Baghdadi, there is a recipe for lukmat al-Qadi, which translates as the judge's morsels, little balls of fried dough soaked in syrup or honey and dusted with sugar. That is Loukoumades, described in medieval Iraq 800 years ago by name and method. The Arabic lukma means a morsel or a bite, and you can hear it sitting right inside the Greek word Loukoumades. These fried dough balls and syrup spread across the entire Middle East and the Ottoman world, and they turn up under different names everywhere the empire reached. The Greek version is genuinely delicious, and the festival tradition around it is wonderful. But the recipe, and even the name, has its clearest home in the Arab kitchens of Baghdad, not in ancient Olympia. And now, the finale. Number 1. Halva. That dense, sweet, crumbly block, usually made from tahini, sometimes semolina, studded with pistachios or marbled with cocoa, sliced and served with coffee. You will find it in every Greek grocer and on every Greek holiday table. And here is the line I promised you at the start, the one you cannot unhear. The word halva is not Greek, it is Arabic. Halva, or halwa, is simply the Arabic word for sweet, or sweetmeat. It is the generic Arabic term for a whole universe of confections that stretches from Morocco all the way to India. The tahini-based halva that Greeks love is a sesame confection with deep roots in the Middle East and Persia, and it spread, like almost everything on this list, along the trade routes and through the kitchens of the Ottoman Empire into Greece and the Balkans. When a Greek shop labels a slab as halva, it is using the Arabic word for sweet to sell a sesame confection that the Arab and Persian world was making and naming long before. It is, in a way, the perfect final example. Not just the dish, but the very word for the dish is a Middle Eastern loan. You have been saying the Arabic word for sweet your whole life and calling it Greek. So let us line them up, because when you see them together, the pattern is impossible to miss. The gyro is the Ottoman doner, its name a translation of the Turkish word for turning. Hummus is Arabic for chickpea, a Levantine dish written down in medieval Cairo. Baklava was perfected in the palace kitchens of Istanbul, with its own military parade. Tzatziki is the Turkish tzatziki, from Persian roots. Pita belongs to the region that baked the oldest bread on earth, in Jordan, 14,000 years ago. Dolmades is the Turkish word for stuffed, an Arab and Ottoman technique from Baghdad. Moussaka is an Arab aubergine bake on an Asian vegetable, with a French sauce added by a Greek chef in the 1920s. Greek coffee is Yemeni coffee, Turkish method, renamed after 1974. Loukoumades is the judge's morsels from a 13th century Baghdad cookbook. And halva is literally the Arabic word for sweet. 10 dishes you were sure were Greek, and every single one of them has its heart in the Middle East. Now, I want to be really clear about something, because this is where people get upset, and I understand why. None of this makes Greek food fake. None of it makes it less delicious, or less meaningful, or less worth loving. Greek cuisine took these dishes, adapted them, refined them, wrapped them in its own bread, spooned its own lemon over them, and shared them with the entire planet. That is not theft. That is what food does. Every great cuisine on earth is a scrapbook of borrowed pages. Italian food is unimaginable without the tomato, which came from the Americas. British curry houses gave the world dishes that exist nowhere in India. American cooking is one enormous act of borrowing. The point of this video is not to take anything away from Greece. The point is that food does not respect borders, and empires and trade routes and migrations wrote these recipes long before anyone drew a flag on them. When you understand that, you do not love the food less. You love it more, because now you can taste the whole journey in it. You can taste Baghdad in the dolmades and Yemen in the coffee and an Ottoman palace in the baklava. Here is what I want from you, because this is the part where you get to argue with me, and I genuinely hope you do. First, which one of these 10 surprised you the most? For a lot of people, it is the moussaka, that French sauce reveal, or it is finding out that the word halva was Arabic all along. Tell me which one made you sit up. Second, which one do you flat out refuse to accept, and why? If you are Greek, or your family is, I want to hear your side. Tell me the story your grandmother told you, because those stories are part of the history too. And third, what dish should I trace next? Give me a food you are absolutely certain about. One you would bet money is exactly what you think it is, and I will follow it backwards on this channel, and we will find out together. Drop all 3 answers in the comments, because I read them, and the best ones shape the next video. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of curious person this channel is built for. So do me a favor and subscribe, because we do this every single week. We take something you thought you knew, and we follow it back to where it really began. Hit the bell so the next one actually reaches you. And if this changed how you see a Greek menu, send it to the one friend who argues about food at dinner, because they need to see it more than anyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being curious. And I will see you in the next one, where we chase another everyday food all the way back to the beginning. Until then, keep asking where your food really comes from. The answer is almost never where you think.